Chapter 9. The Glipper Trail. When they were back in the open street, 2 of the 3 children and Nugget felt a little better. Lily was mostly happy that Nugget was fine. Tink was mostly glad that Lily was fine, and Janner was mostly terrified because he was the oldest and had begun to think of the future. He knew Glipwood was a small town, and it would only be a matter of time, maybe hours, maybe just minutes, before the Fang called Slarb and his companion reported back to Commander Norm. Then terrible things would follow. "We have to go home." "Aw, Janner," Tink wailed, already on to the next adventure. "Can't we see the dragons?" "Everyone's there, and as soon as the moon rises..." "By the time the moon rises, you know what's going to happen," Janner said hotly. Lily and Tink were silent as they made their way through Glipwood's empty main street. Janner tried to calm himself down. What's going to happen other than the sea dragons dancing is that those 2 Fangs will wake up, and once they do, every Fang in Glipwood will be looking for 3 kids and a little black dog. "Oh, and the girl has a lame leg. Now tell me, do you think they'll have a hard time finding us?" Janner finished, more irritated than when he began. "Well, what do we do?" Lily asked after a long pause. "Mama will be at Cliff's watching the dragons, but that will probably be the first place the Fangs would look for us. Podo always stays home on Dragon Day, so that's where we're going. Podo will know what to do." Janner set his face for the lane that led to the cottage. "I hope he does." "Here," Tink wrapped Lily's other arm around his neck and picked up his pace. Nugget trotted along beside them very seriously, as if he too had realized it was a bad situation indeed. The light deepened as they hurried on, so when they were still an arrow's shot away from the cottage, they already knew that their grandfather wasn't home. No lantern burned in the window, no smoke lifted lazily out of the chimney. Janner stopped and Tink with him as they sat Lily down on the grass, each bending over to catch their breath. "Where do you suppose he is?" Tink said between gulps of air. "Don't know," Janner said, pacing. "Maybe he went to see the dragons this year." Tink was doubtful about that. "But he never goes to the cliffs on Dragon Day," Lily said, puzzled. "Why would he go now?" "Well, why wouldn't he be here at the cottage?" Tink asked. I think we should look for him at the cliffs. Then we might see the dragons after all." A glare from Janner cut him off. Janner looked east in the direction of the sea. Maybe Tink was right. Maybe for some reason Podo had decided to watch the dragons this year. "Fine," he said, "but we're taking the Glipper Trail. We can't risk the main road. There are probably Fangs everywhere. The Glipper Trail's faster anyway." Tink moaned, but already Janner was helping Lily toward the trail. An old walking path led through the trees behind the Igby cottage and wound precariously near the edge of the cliffs. In the deepening shadows, the children made their way through the trees. When they emerged, the view was terrible and vast. Shale and tough grass littered the rocky verge of the land. The horizon was silent and wide, and a salty wind sighed upward around their ankles and through their hair. The children stood without speaking, dizzy with the smallness they felt, looking out over the dark sea of darkness. Janner looked to his right and could make out a precarious trail winding over stone and brush, leading away to where the people would be watching the dragons. The Glipper Trail stayed mostly level on a narrow shelf, while the ground nearer the tree line rose steeply above them. Wiry shrubs and roots clutched the rock wall as if they were too afraid of falling. "Janner, I can't do this," Tink said. He was standing with his back against the gray rocks, eyes clenched shut. "You have to," Janner said. "The Fangs that might find us on the road are more dangerous than this trail right here. You have to try, Tink." Using the nearby boulders for support, Lily hopped back to him and took his hand. "Come on," she said. Tink jerked his hand away and forced a smile. "I'm not worried about me, you know," he said with sudden bravado. I just meant that I just don't think Lily should be out here." "Oh, thank you," Lily said wearily. Tink sighed and peeled his fingers from the rock. He inched along behind Lily and Janner, careful to stay as far as possible away from the edge. As the light faded, the trail rose and narrowed. Lily picked her way across, but Janner had to stop now and again for Tink to gather the courage to follow. Janner kept looking back to be sure that Lily was able to navigate the trail without her crutch. With Nugget at her side and all manner of roots and rocks to hold on to, she seemed more like she was taking a stroll through a park than edging along a perch above the dark sea. Finally, they topped the rise in the trail, and it widened out to a grassy slope. Janner and Lily tried not to laugh when Tink burst ahead of them and paced the safe ground. His shirt was drenched in sweat, and he was strutting like he had just won a race. Ahead and below them, Janner saw the glow of torches, where the people were gathered to watch the dragons. "We made it," Janner said. "Tink, help me with Lily." As they scrambled down the slope toward the throng, the moon began its soft ascent. Then they heard the most achingly beautiful sound in all of Ariat.